It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker of the evening, Dr. Kate Whalen. She is a lifelong learner who knows that education extends well beyond the classroom. She enjoys asking questions and telling stories to share insights gained and lessons learned through research, failure, experience, and reflection. Fun fact about Kate, she's a junkie for learning clubs. She's part of a book club, a journal club, and something called an article club. That's for people who are not yet ready for a book club. So you just have to commit to reading a short article. She's also part of a podcast club and even a club dedicated to the LCBO Food and Drink magazine. And that group hasn't missed an issue since 2010. Thank you very much, Kate, and looking forward to your talk.
Thank you, Joe. Beginners Wanted, the necessity of learning through experience. March 12th, 2020 was the last time I would see my students in person because we would end the semester virtually. I was one of the lucky ones who had a full week to learn how to teach online. I decided on a platform and I immediately discovered that I didn't know how to use it, let alone how to guide my students to use it. After a weekend working through online tutorials, I felt ready to go. But during my first meeting on Monday morning with my colleagues, I found that my internet bandwidth was non-existent. I was mute and I was frozen, and my internet providers confirmed that there was absolutely nothing they could do about it. I heard story after story from my colleagues. My 300-person class was Zoom bombed and we're still shaken. Only 6 of my 100 students showed up from class. Most of my students had technical difficulties and the class was a disaster. I questioned how I was going to survive this. There was great uncertainty, but the feeling was very familiar to me. I felt like a beginner. But I knew that I wasn't alone, and I would wager a guess that you have felt this way when beginning something new, and will likely feel this way again. And fortunately, I wasn't an incompetent beginner. I was consciously incompetent, and that's an important distinction. The conscious competence model explains some of the stages of learning. The first stage, when we are consciously incompetent, we don't know what we don't know. It's blissful here. When we are consciously incompetent, we know what we don't know, but we can also identify what we need to know. When we are consciously competent, we can easily troubleshoot and find information. And when we are unconsciously competent, completing tasks feels like second nature, and we're unaware of what it's like to be a beginner. Unfortunately, learning doesn't stop when we're out of school. The important role of learning through experience combined with reflection is widely recognized. So simply, we have experiences every single day, and we can choose to approach them as opportunities to learn. Reflection is the process of thinking critically to create meaning from our experiences. And reflection has been studied and used as a learning tool in a variety of fields and professions, including healthcare, business, and the arts. In studying the role of reflection in learning, I found that students feel that reflecting on their experiences makes information more available for use. And in the words of one student participant, reflection didn't make me learn more, it just made me realize what I had learned. And there's value in explicitly knowing what you know, because you can use it for continued practice and learning. But I questioned, if practice makes perfect, then why am I not better at public speaking, something I used to travel to different cities for? Running, I've completed multiple triathlons. Or gardening, I've killed more than my fair share of succulents. And it's not that I'm bad at public speaking or running, it's just that I'm not that much better than I was a few years ago. And so maybe it's because I don't approach all tasks with intention and deliberate practice, and perhaps that's the same for you. And so reflection as a tool for deliberate practice might help us take full advantage of novel situations and help propel us into conscious competence, helping us easily troubleshoot, find useful information, and ultimately learn more effectively. And so while reflection might seem like second nature to some, like many things in life, reflection can be enhanced through guidance. I've dedicated my doctoral research on creating a framework to support high quality reflections based on the level of cognitive skill demonstrated. Specifically, my goal was to help educators who, just like me, needed a way to help guide, assess, and reliably evaluate student reflections. So through employing my own reflective learning framework, I've created some prompts to help make reflection and being a beginner a bit easier. So think of the acronym KEEP. First, get clear on what you know and what you need to know, and then use what you know. For me, I knew my students really well, and I knew what they needed most from me right away. I needed to learn how to use Microsoft Teams well enough to send them an individual message of support and a smile-inducing meme. Next, tap into your emotions and identify the feelings and what biases, values, and intentions are underneath. Consider how your feelings may be helping or hindering you. For me, I was worried that I might make the situation worse for my students if they attended a lecture and it was a failure. I value accountability, and my intention was to be someone that my students could always count on. And so while fear was telling me, play it safe, send them some annotated slides or a pre-recording, my students told me that they needed the normalcy of our regular class time. And so courage was telling me to act in line with my values. Next, consider your past experiences and how they might help you navigate this new situation. I had been in classes and online meetings as a participant on countless occasions, so I had been in their shoes. And I was happy if I knew how to participate and if I had the opportunity for interactive learning. And finally, make a game plan. What's the next action to move you forward? For me, I needed to get an Ethernet cord to solve my internet problems. How will you feel once you've accomplished that initial thing? I knew that I would feel confident and I could refocus my energy, not on my internet, but on my class and on my students. What outcome do you expect? Once I gained that confidence, I knew that I could expect a great interactive class with whichever students showed up. And finally, what could derail you and how will you ensure that it doesn't stop you? My students might not have shown up or had internet problems of their own. And so I plan to pre-record the lecture just in case. So whether it's transitioning to a new job or industry, learning how to teach online, or attending to keep houseplants alive, we needn't shy away from the discomfort of being a beginner. We must treat our new experiences as rich opportunities to reflect and to learn, because these are the critical skills for survival. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate, for that great talk. We have a few questions for you. So the first one is, what skills have you learned during the pandemic that you'll take with you when we return to normal?
I question how much we will actually return to normal. So I'm going to provide one that's been really valuable to me, especially over the challenging transition to the pandemic, which was the power of creating a to-do list at the end of the day for the following day. So early in the pandemic, I was having a hard time to get motivated and feel productive, which was pretty unusual for me because I had worked from home often before, pre-pandemic. And so reflecting on it, the big difference for me was that when I would work from home previously, it was because I had to get something done. I had a big report, or I had to get the office finances done, or grant application, something like that. And so I had a burning platform and I had direction. And it was much easier to get things done when I had those two. But in the first phase of the pandemic, deadlines became more fluid, and many of my meetings and my structure around my day were not really there. So I brought back the to-do list because I realized I didn't have trouble working once I was in it. Blessing or a curse, ask my husband. It's hard to pull me away once I'm in something. The hard part was getting directed and started. And so the to-do list, I can do it while I'm in the mindset the night before, and then in the morning I open my laptop and I don't really have to think. I just look at the list, and as long as I can start the first thing, the rest is downhill. So I would say that one, and the only other one would be, which I think is really important, the social connections that were lost, between coffee meetings and walks between meetings and other things with my team members. So we are all kind of junkies for learning clubs, and we like to have discussion and debate around current events. So we created our learning unlearning club, and so we rotate between articles, and they're sometimes work related, sometimes not, but we learn a lot about the topic as well as each other, and it's pretty casual, and it kind of gives us some focus time to reconnect as individuals.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then I just realized the poll answers have come in, and we have actually quite a bimodal group. About 40% of the audience does in fact engage in some sort of reflection. And then 30% says that they're not the reflective type. So perhaps you've swayed some of those other people, to become more reflective, and you're helping improve those who already do it. Yeah. And then we just have one more question for you. The person asks, I want to start reflecting, but I get stuck with what to write about. Any advice?
So I don't believe that there's any kind of one right way to reflect, but I do think what would be helpful is if you identified why you want to reflect or what you're hoping to gain from the process. So if it's specific, something like, I need to work through a difficult situation or gain clarity about a decision, preserve a really proud moment, or it might be more general, like you want to be more present in your life, or you are starting a new job or going through something where you have a lot of novel experiences and you want to take all the learning from it. Once you've figured out why you want to reflect, I would say the next thing is just to carve out some space, like mentally and physically. Get a great pen or book or however you like to reflect, give yourself some time, remove distractions. And then from there, and given the reason why you want to reflect, I would say just start by creating some really simple open-ended questions. So if you wanted to say, work through a challenging experience, what is my experience? Why is it difficult? If you want to capture learning, what did I learn today? How can I extend or apply what I've learned? And if you're having trouble coming up with questions, the internet is full of some really fabulous, well thought through reflection questions that others have come up with. So you can Google your way through that. Other than that, have fun with it. It should be enjoyable. Maybe some discomfort, but ultimately it should be enjoyable. So have some fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you.